At this point, I want you to help me invite to the stage Miss Nancy Charles, who is going to introduce our guest speaker for the evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our guest speaker for this evening. Mr. Phoenix Belfield has almost 15 years work experience across different industries, including fintech, business support, credit union governance, strategic management, public speaking, and leadership development. He holds a master's degree in strategic management and a degree in economics, as well as professional certificates in corporate governance and risk management. He also worked alongside the Climate Resilience Execution Agency of Dominica in developing, launching, and managing the flexible hurricane protection product, the first retail parameric insurance product of its kind in the Caribbean region, geared towards providing a financial buffer for the insured credit union members with hurricane protection insured against wind speed. Mr. Belfan has special interest in building financial and digital inclusion, access, and operational efficiency within the credit union movement. He pioneered Dominica's first financially inclusive mobile wallet platform designed to future-proof the credit union movement and drive financial inclusion and access to the undeserved. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and let's give a warm St. Lucian welcome to our brother from our sister isle of Dominica, Mr. Phoenix Belfield.
You may be seated. Phoenix couldn't make it, so he asked me to come. So here am I. I would like to adopt the protocol established, but I'm not going to. Mr. Francis Fontenelle, PS Ministry of Finance, Mrs. Charmin, and forgive me if my English overwhelms my French. Charmin Louis Justin, DPS Ministry of Commerce, Mrs. Natalie, she's sitting next to me, so I have to be very careful with this name. Yes, Miss Natalie. Thank you very much. Mrs. Martina Belizier and Madam Chairperson, thank you very much. Thank you all for the invitation. I bring you greetings from the Nature Isle of the Caribbean and the host, soon to be, of the 17th OECS Summit in September 2024. But we're not here to talk about the OECS Summit. I want to preface the sharing this evening with a story of Maria. And Maria is a lady that is an inspiration to many here in St. Lucia. She's a single mom with 2 children. Thank you very much. She's a single mom with 2 children. And she was struggling to make ends meet on a limited income. Despite her financial challenges, Maria had dreams of providing a better future for her family, including home ownership and children's education. Maria joined a local credit union, and she was attracted by its reputation for providing affordable financial services and personalized support for its members. And so with the guidance of the credit union staff, Maria developed a financial plan to achieve her goals, including saving for a down payment for her home and also providing for her children's education. With the support of the local credit union, she was able to secure a low-cost mortgage loan and worked on her first home. And in that process, fulfilling her lifelong dream of home ownership. In addition to that, she was able to enroll her children in schooling and provide educational opportunities for them. And today, her family is better because of the hard work, dedication, and commitment of the credit union movement here in St. Lucia. Thank you very much. The reason I'm telling you about this story of Maria, it's not because I want you to feel empathetic. I want you to realize that a noble cause that we are called to perform here, whether you sit on a board of directors, or whether you're employed at a credit union or at the league, or any of our stakeholder organization, is a noble one. And it's one that is going to impact generations to come. From the time the credit union movement started in the mid 20th century, you have been doing a fantastic job here in St. Lucia. And I think you deserve more than a round of applause. I was happy when the PS asked the question, what keeps you up at night? And so I whispered to the executive director that the regulator keep me up at night. So after her speech, I said, I think I'm going to sleep better. And the reason I'm saying that is because, as the PS said, regulations have become part of what we do. So we do two things at the credit union. Well, a couple of things. The main things. We provide loans and we comply with regulations. And I love it when the regulator comes up here and speaks so glowingly not only of the movement, but also of the tireless efforts of volunteers, the tireless efforts of members of staff, and your unwavering commitment to the cause. And this is something that we represent here. Something that we call the credit union movement the best kept secret. And I hope that by the time I'm finished here, Madam Chair would have selected her credit union of choice to start. But for us, as we dedicate and we begin to speak on the themes of commitment and celebrating our history, there's one thing that I want to point out here as it relates to commitment. Commitment for us is the cornerstone for which we are built. It's the humble beginnings to the present-day prominence. And credit unions, we have remained steadfast in the mission to serve our members. Yes, we have evolved. And we have the same dilemma that you have, where people are beginning to interpret credit unions as near banks. And I've had to defend the cause time and time again, and I will continue to. I think, people in Dominica know me that even if you invite me to a wedding, I'll find a way to talk about credit unions. Don't invite me to funerals, I'll talk about it too. Yes. But we have evolved. And one of the things, and I was really happy, I was taking notes as the regulator and the PS were speaking, because one of the things people have failed to realize is that as credit unions, yes, we're brick and mortar, but the needs of our membership continue to evolve. And with it, the systems, the processes, how we do business, adoption of digital technologies, KYCs, compliance, everything has evolved. So we must evolve. But we must not stray far from our core purpose. We must continue to have the members as our center focus. We must continue to cooperate among cooperatives. And which brings me to a very lovely story of the Korean bee and the hornet. I don't know if you heard about it, but the Korean bee, one hornet can destroy a beehive of about 1,000. One. And those bees are very small. And how they would defend themselves is just as how we defend in the movement. Cooperation among cooperative. What they do, they ball together in a ball. So when the hornet attacks the bee, it drops to the ground. And when the hornet goes after that bee, all of them chase after. They envelope the hornet in a ball and create a heat of about 46 degrees Celsius. Enough to roast the hornet, but just 2 degrees under what they themselves can tolerate. Why do they do that? Because they recognize, just like us, that there's strength in unity. And that the small credit union may not be able to take on a lot of the things. We look at cooperation among cooperatives in compliance, in training. But together, we can do so much. And the evolving landscape encourages us to cooperate between cooperatives. It actually teaches us that if you do not cooperate or you do not collaborate, you're most likely doomed to fail. Jack Welch once said, if the rate of change on the outside is greater than the change on the inside, the end is near. So us as a movement, we must evolve with the times. We must adopt cutting-edge technology. We must remain member-centric. We must have our hands forward, but our ears on the ground. Always member-centric. Another area I want to touch on is the resilience. And you'd hear me mention a lot about back home because I'm the most loved and not the most loved. But I'm passionate about credit union. And why I'm passionate about credit union? Because credit unions are the only financial institution that compels you, Madam Chair, to save while you borrow. Did you hear me? It is the only financial institution that compels you to save while you borrow. And whereas other financial institutions that I'm not at liberty to call name, just simply tell you bring your business and they give you high interest loans, pay their loans and all of that. The credit union, they would call you in and counsel you. And they would tell you, okay, this is what you loan, but you have to put aside this amount every month. And by the time you're finished paying that loan, you have a loan, you have the asset, and you also have a saving. And the reason I'm saying that, I always love when I have my government officials and stakeholders there. Because the rest of you, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my table, including my two St. Lucian parents. Please give them a round of applause. For us, we see regulator as partners. We see government as partners too. And we always tell the government, we said, listen, we've seen, and the PS mentioned it, we've seen an exodus of non-indigenous financial institutions. Where are the credit unions going? Where are we going? We're not going anywhere. And these homegrown financial institutions that represent a market penetration rate of 71%, you are not going anywhere. You are here to stay. And we have gone through from crisis to crisis, from COVID to hurricanes, and we have stood the test of time. In fact, the credit union movement in the OECS have received far less bailouts than the banks in the OECS. And we have weathered the same storms. We cannot go and create bonus shares. That is why some of us are undercapitalized. We have to go to the membership and plead and say, come and invest in your credit union. And the reason I'm saying that is because I also want the government to embrace the credit union movement, not only as an institution that needs to be regulated and vigilated, but also as a critical partner for growth and development of St. Lucia. A financial partner whose interest is in getting the membership, helping them along the way. I said to the IMF, where is the risk in the credit union movement? When we give a loan to a small farmer or a young lady that sells bus up shot on Rodney Bay, and we invest on that person who is the owner of the credit union and also the member. Because of that, and because of the credit union movement, we are where we are today. And we are growing not because it is easier to join the credit union, as what the international agencies like to say, that we have lowest KYC. It's not because of that. It's because we have packaged our products to the members. We listen to our membership. We meet them at their point of greatest need. and we also involve them in the decision making of their financial institution. And that's the reason why you're at 71% or over 70% penetration rate. That is the reason why even in Dominica, we're the highest in terms of credit union penetration in the world. And we say in Dominica, 2 things you're given at birth: a birth certificate and a credit union member's card. Our unwavering commitment, my brothers and sisters, is very important. And sometimes the tides are going to get very rough. It is not always that we're going to be, or we're going to feel, or we're going to want to cooperate with cooperatives. It's not always that we're going to agree with the decisions of the regulators or the government. It's not always that we're going to even agree with the decisions in our committees. But always remember one thing. If nobody gives you a tap on the back, or if nobody tells you thank you, remember why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing for the lady on the side of the road that sells bus up shot. You're doing for the guy that sells coconut water in Cass Street. You're doing it for the lady who always had this dream of opening a hairdressing salon, but because she is risky and she doesn't have collateral, she's not important enough by the other institutions. But she can go to any one of the 16 credit unions and get a loan. She can even get a character loan. We have to remember the purpose for which we were created. And yes, it's absolutely right. To whom much is given, much is expected. And so we also have to remember that the days when we were just a susu, or we were just everybody come and to get a loan, you just have to say, I know that person, and you got a loan. Now it's KYC, KYD, know your dog, know everybody. And a lot of people have told us, well, you're getting like banks. They said, well, you're becoming complex too. So we also have a responsibility of protecting the financial system. We also have a responsibility of protecting this same legacy that we are celebrating here today. And how can we protect those legacy? We can protect it by remembering our core values. We can protect it by governing with integrity. We can protect it by cooperating around cooperatives. We can protect it by our collective might, empowered by the league. Empower your league. And we always say in Dominica, when the credit unions start to act up, we say, listen, if you think life is bad now, anytime you see this league disappear, it's going to be doggy dog. And then the big ones, which we call systemically important, will be changed to near banks. And then the smaller ones that cannot fend for themselves will be swallowed up in the process. And this is not far-fetched. It's the reality everywhere. That is why we cooperate. That's why we have a league that provides training and advocacy and have one common voice. And I want you to embrace your league, because life is better. And just like the bees and the hornet, we may be small, but we are Talawa. We may be small credit unions, but when we work together, we are forced to reckon. And so tonight, as we honor this legacy and our commitment to purpose, I want you to remember the purpose for which you accepted the position you're all in. I want you to remember the lady on the side of the road who now has a shop. I want you to remember Maria, who now has a home and her children has an education. And now you have, by that small gesture, you have impacted a generation. Tonight, we celebrate you. But more importantly, we celebrate the purpose for which we are here. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's say thank you so much to Mr. Belfield for those words. And of course, I would like to invite Mr. Lucius Elevic to come in and just hand him a token of our appreciation.